Aquarius, the plot twist for you in the year 2026 is just how good it is going to get for you. But the ask of you in 2026 is to be open for the winds of change to sweep through your life. The blessings, the opportunities, the destined alignments that are foretold by this year's sky are going to come into your life. Change is the vehicle that brings you what it is that you desire. And you may be listening to this like, Haley Comet, I've had Uranus in my modality since 2018. I've had Pluto in my sign for the last 2 years, both of which could have made you feel like you are on unsteady, shaky foundation. You may have tried to build things or move in a certain direction and feel like the universe was like a wrecking ball, destroying things before you even had an opportunity for them to get fully built or fully crystallized. Or perhaps for you, change was thrust upon you and you are just seeking to regain your equilibrium, find your balance. Once again, you may be listening to this saying, Haley Comet, return it. No more change, please. But I'm telling you, the sort of shifts that are taking place in the year 2026 are fated. New opportunities that were meant to be yours. New people entering your life, with Jupiter entering your 7th house, that were meant to be within your reality. But you must allow what is not meant for you to fall away. Because this year, North Node will enter your sign. And when you have North Node in your sign, that means you have eclipses in your sign. And eclipses shake things up. And again, you're like, Haley Comet, return it back. But when it comes to having North Node in your sign, there is a unique brand of peace and serenity afforded to you this year around knowing that anything that is being taken away, swept away at this time is not for your highest and best good. And things that are clicking into alignment, which quite a bit is this year for you, Aquarius, you know that it was meant to be yours, that it is universally ordained, universally approved. And so within this forecast, Aquarius, we will be diving deep into everything you need to know about 2026 astrology and the movie that is playing out for you. Speaking of change, I've reformulated how I typically do these annual horoscope readings. You know, change is a good thing. So how I've designed this forecast is that I want you to feel like you are watching a trailer of the movie that is going to play out within the next year. I want you to dial in the energies that you're bringing with you from 2025 to illuminate the plot twist that you do not see coming, but the astrology is aligning for you, to tune into how you are evolving and growing as the protagonist, as the star of your own movie. We'll take it into the other characters or the other planetary transits that may not play as big of a role within your year, but are still there. And then we'll take it into the final scene, which essentially ties all of your major themes together and wraps it up with a pretty bow. I want to highlight that this video will be the most resonant and the most aligned for your year ahead if you are an Aquarius rising. This forecast is in whole sign, so if you utilize Placidus equal signs, you may want to listen to the signs that border yours, just in case some of the transits resonate more so there. I also would recommend this video if you are an Aquarius sun. The video that is the most encouraged to watch from this series is your rising. So if you just have 1 hour to spare, definitely listen to your rising. But solar houses are another supplemental energy that infuse your year. Essentially, the technique that we utilize with sun sign forecast is solar houses, which is when we pull the sun into the first house and set up the houses from there. And I'm telling you, when it comes to year ahead astrology or major long transits, I always observe my sun sign themes as well. So that is my encouragement. I also would encourage you, if you are looking for a scene by scene analysis, essentially every month of 2026 and what is aligning for you, what is challenging you, what is activating you, check out my Magic 2026 month by month guide. You can see that below. Essentially within that guide, I take you through every single month and how it is that you can make it magical. What opportunities are coming up, what challenges are coming up, affirmations that you can utilize in order to align with that astrology, work with that astrology. Another offering that I would encourage if you're wanting to understand more what is showing up for you in the year ahead, I'm having Magic 2026 Capricorn New Moon classes. There are a couple dates available, and when they are gone, they are gone. And within those small classes, we will look at your chart and your transit so that you can plant seeds for the year ahead that are most aligned with what is blooming for you in the year ahead. In my personal opinion, working with astrology is just an intelligent way to bucket your energy? Why would I force this to be the year that I renovate my home when next year would be far more favorable? Or why would I put all of my energy towards dating in the first part of the year if Jupiter enters my 7th house in the latter portion of the year? Both of these offerings are designed to do just that. So you can check that out below. But without further ado, Aquarius, let's go ahead and take it into Act 1 of the Aquarius movie, setting the scene. The curtain opens. 2026 is upon us. But what's important is that even before the show of this year begins, you as a character and your life has had quite a bit of backstory, quite a bit of lore. So let's talk about some recent energies that you are very much bringing with you into the year. First being, since March 2023, Pluto, the planet of power, the planet of destruction, the planet of transformation, has entered your sign. Now, in more dramatic ways or more subtle ways, this could have marked a major transformation for you. Utilizing houses or solar houses, this indicates that Pluto has been in your 1st house. And by the way, it'll be there for quite a bit longer. So this is not unique to last year, the year prior, or this year. It's an ongoing story and it's an ongoing evolution. When you have Pluto in your sign, sometimes things that felt very solid, felt very secure within your life, suddenly the universe takes a wrecking ball to those foundations and you are having to rebuild. You're having to reinvent yourself within the 1st house. You could even recognize just this far into the Pluto and Aquarius story, you can feel like you are not the same person that you were in 2023 before Pluto entered Aquarius for the first time in all of our lifetime. And the catalyst for this change differs for each and every one of you, but the major focal point of the change is that you are evolving. So perhaps something with your career fell through. You were so certain that this is what you wanted to do, and now it feels like that path is no longer aligned. Or you were so certain that this was going to be the relationship for you, and now it feels uncertain. Or perhaps even just certain truths that you had built about the world at large, suddenly you are seeing the world differently. You know, once you know something, you can't unknow something. Once you see something, you can't unsee it. Once you have an awakening, you can't go back to sleep. And that could be some of the energy that you're bringing with you into 2026, is that you have a realer take on the world altogether. You could have felt like certain experiences made you very jaded and disillusioned around, I had an idea that society was like this, and now I'm recognizing the truth of how society is, or I'm recognizing the psychological natures of the people within my life, where I'm recognizing the societal programming, the familial programming that has impacted how I see the world, and I'm taking the glasses off. And how could I not transform after knowing this, acknowledging this? And Pluto energy awakens us to a very deep exploration of the world. Again, some of you could just be shedding old psychological patterns, like shedding an old skin like a snake. You could be in this process of transformation, which doesn't always need to be as destabilizing as some of the examples that I gave. There could just be this energy of feeling this new version of yourself rise within you and really wanting to completely own your power. Pluto is the planet of power. And so Pluto energy can take a lot away from us. It can make us confront some uncomfortable truths, some uncomfortable realities, but it also awakens us to our own power. And sometimes when you have Pluto in your sign, people are reacting to you in a very intense way. People could be trying to control you. And this is a time in which you are fully stepping into your power and you're stepping into the depth of who you are. Based on the astrology that you had last year and continuing on to this year, there's really this energy where you refuse to conform. Listen, I'm talking to Aquarians. Okay. That's an everyday thing, but especially with Pluto, like you could have had experiences where people are like, oh, you're so this, or you're so this, or you're too intense, or you're so intimidating. And oftentimes Pluto in our sign makes it so that we're not apologizing for who we are. We're not wanting to diminish ourselves or make ourselves smaller to make other people more comfortable. We're wanting to show up as we are. You could have felt certain themes of grief and loss come into your life. And even if it's not something that you lost, it could be a version of self, even who I was before I learned this, before I figured this out, before I saw it this particular way, or even who I was before this move, who I was before this promotion. You know, Pluto being the planet of power, some of you may have arisen to a higher level of power and are dealing with having to be disliked because of that. You know, Pluto governs extremes. So people could be reacting to you in a very extreme way. And this journey is just getting started. We're only 2 years into a long, long time of Pluto and Aquarius, but you can be bringing some of those themes with you into this year. I want to highlight that while all of you may feel these underlying Plutonian themes of evolution, transformation, and rebirth, those who will be working with Pluto the closest in the year 2026 will be those who have Aquarius placements in their chart between 2 and 4. This means you will have a Pluto conjunction, which is a lot more intense, it's a lot more dramatic, and it's a lot more transformative. Pluto as a planet oftentimes exists in the corners of the psyche, it exists in the shadows, but if you have Aquarius placements within 2 to 4, it is on the surface. It is incredibly apparent. And it may really impact the tone of this particular year, giving this energy of stepping into your new self, stepping into your new life, while also grieving the old. Another major theme that is alive when the curtains rise on 2026 is that Uranus, which you could consider your ruler if you abide by modern rulerships, has been in your modality. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. And this has been at the base of your chart, which is a territory of the chart that's around home, family, emotional state. And Uranus, much like Pluto, is not the most steady influence. So you've had two of the planets that are fundamentally around change and disruption hanging out in your angular houses, so to speak, for the last 2 years. You could feel like you're trying to build in quicksand. Like there just could have been certain shifts as it relates to your living situation, like certain changes that were thrust upon. You could be living somewhere brand new. You could have certain shifts within your family. There could be even certain shifts within your emotional state where you're just trying to find center. You also could have had certain issues as it relates to family. You know, with Pluto in your first house, Uranus in your fourth house, there could have been an energy around feeling like the black sheep, feeling like the weird one, being cast aside as the evil one. Again, Pluto energy can sometimes operate in these extremes. So people could be seeing you in this extreme lens that you're like, wait, no, that's not who I am. I was just rebelling against how my family expects me to be this or do this. And it's worth noting, I just want to highlight, you know, Pluto is not just extreme bad and hatred. You could also find people are very obsessed with you. With Pluto in your first house, maybe too much so, you know, sometimes that's an Aquarius energy around, okay, I want closeness, but that's a little too close. And so there also could be an energy around feeling like people are trying to control you or feeling like people are very obsessed with you. Again, it can govern these extremes, but you are being asked to wield your power and be wholly and authentically yourself. Another influence of Uranus in the fourth house, which is a story that you're closing out this year in April to be specific, is that you could have found your emotions went through some disturbances. You know, with Pluto in the first house, Uranus in the fourth, you could have certain energies in the last 2 years where you've gotten real around certain psychological or emotional disturbances, issues, problems, or even like trauma that has come to the surface. Pluto is around psyche. And with Uranus in the fourth house, you may have even reached for or been open to unique healing modalities in order to support you. That's an energy that you're also bringing with you. And with Uranus leaving your 4th house midway through the year, we'll get into what that means for you. But I will say the part of your story where you could have felt like every time you'd get comfortable in a home, you had to move again. Or every time you were in a good spot with your family, something sudden would happen and you would have to disrupt your life to go help them. Or if every time you fixed one issue within your home, another one came up, you should feel a little bit more solid moving forward. And from that space, like the winds of change are working with you. Like again, you could have felt, setting the scene, like change, Haley Comet, don't tell me more change, because a lot of the winds of change could have felt like they were against you, like you were fighting your way on a windy day, but now it's like pushing you forward. And so there is a distinct shift that is happening this year, but it's important to know that some of the dynamics that you're pulling with you from last year could have you feel a little wobbly. So that's how it is that you may be starting the year. Act 2, the plot twist. This is something within your yearly forecast that may catch you by surprise, may catch you off guard. And part of your plot twist is that you are the main character of the eclipses. North Node will enter your sign in August, and that's significant because that indicates that the eclipses are going to shift from being in Pisces and Virgo to being primarily in Aquarius and Leo. And when you have eclipses in your sign, things get shaken up. Like I've noted, setting the scene, you're already like, okay, things have shifted, whether it's within me, my life, my psychology, my inner reservoir, or outer things within my life. There's been all of this change. And now, Haley Comet, you're telling me there's more change? Yes, but nodal change, Uranus change, and Pluto change is much different. And the unique blessing of being a main character of the eclipses and the main character of North Node is that no matter what plays out this year, it is all playing out for your highest and best good. Looking ahead at your astrology, I do believe that you are very protected. You are very favored this year, but you're going to have certain moments this year where you think back to this video and you're like, Haley Comet, how could this situation possibly be a blessing? But later in time, you'll see, oh, like that issue with my house was exactly what I needed in order to move into this much better neighborhood that gives me exactly what I desire. Or learning this shady truth about the person that I'm dating set me up to find my husband and ride off into the sunset. Like, it's important to know that when you are an eclipse main character, there may be certain things that you deem as bad immediately around, I learned this thing and it feels bad because my emotions are rocked, or there was this position that I really valued within my life and it got taken away from me. Like, it's not to say that these things are not scary and destabilizing, and there may be certain things that are departing your life this year, but it's so the right things can flow in, and you want the right things to flow in. I do feel like you are operating through some trust this year, Aquarius, and it's going to be very important, as well as really just trusting in the bigger picture, trusting in the divine timeline of it all, and really knowing that if something just falls through, if someone reveals their true colors, if something that you really wanted doesn't work out, it's because you are being protected, it's because you are being spared, and you've got to trust that. And while I want to extend that message of protection and being favored and things aligning for your highest and best good, even if they do not look like that in the moment, to all of you, I do want to highlight the Aquarians who have later Aquarius degrees may feel that more intensely, especially if you have Aquarius placements at 28 degrees or 20 degrees. That means that either the solar eclipse in Aquarius or the solar eclipse in Leo will harshly aspect your Aquarius placements. There's a story for all of you, but especially those. So let's break down these eclipses. So the eclipse on February 17th, the solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees. This is very significant because it is the opening eclipse. North Node has not yet moved back into Aquarius. The North Node is still finishing off its journey through Pisces, but we get a preview. We get a foreshadow. You know, I'm designing these forecasts to be like a trailer of the movie. This is like the real trailer of your movie around what these eclipses will be about. And so pay attention to what is coming up. You know, some of you may be Aquarius suns. This might be right around your birthday. And don't you feel like things always pop off during your birthday, or like there's like a lot of events or things happening? That may be increasingly the case degrees, with eclipses now going to fall primarily in your axis. But this is a solar eclipse on the North Node. I will just highlight that solar eclipses, that's a new moon eclipse, it typically is a little bit more collective oriented rather than deeply personal. However, it is a new beginning energy, especially within a North Node, like a new beginning that is setting you up and setting you forward. And what's important to know is that when North Node is in your sign, when eclipses are in your sign, that means that it's in your first house, in actual houses or solar houses, which governs self, identity. And so there may be some sort of opportunity, some sort of event that transpires in February that's like, ready or not, here you go. Like there may be some sort of opportunity that comes your way, some sort of visibility, some sort of event that happens that pushes you to go off on your own at something or do something on your own, or something that really is a catalyst to you arising to the occasion. As I mentioned, eclipses can sometimes be very chaotic, but it's knowing if anything drops into your reality around that time, it is destined, it is fated, pay attention. If anything departs your reality around that time, it is destined, it is fated, and it's meant to launch you forward. Some of you may be asked to choose yourself at this time. And sometimes it shows up with work or at, work wants me to do this, but I have to choose myself. Or sometimes that's around family. My family wants me to do this, but I have to choose myself. That can also show up within a relationship. I do have to be forthright and say that you have a interesting relationship energy this year, where I think a lot of you are going to enter into a relationship if you are not in one. I think a lot of you are going to start to feel more optimistic around relationships, but I also believe that a lot of you are going to get out of relationships, especially if they are hindering your ability to grow, especially if you do not feel like yourself around them. If you feel like you have to be a dimmer or smaller person around them, that's a huge story for you this year, and you're just kind of like refusing and only wanting people who make the world feel bigger and make you feel bigger. And so there also could be something like a crossroad energy I'm seeing with that eclipse, as well as some other energies that we'll talk about, where you could feel like there's a crossroad, especially early this year. Do I stay? Do I go? Do I choose them? Do I choose myself? Do I do this? Do I do that? And ultimately, only you can decide what is best. But it's important, especially with this eclipse, to be a little selfish with it. You know, to a collective level, all of us are being asked to do that. Now, I'm talking to the humanitarians of the zodiac. Help, support, uplift. I'm not saying that we need to be greedy and only out for ourselves. I'm just saying if there is something where you have not been prioritizing yourself, there may be something where other people want you to make a different decision, but you've got to choose yourself. And maybe for the first time, like genuinely choosing yourself. The next eclipse lands on August 12th, and this is the solar eclipse in Leo that lands at 20 degrees. And this is a new beginning, again, a solar eclipse, yet this is on the South Node. So it's a new beginning that's coming in the form of an ending. So it's knowing if you start talking to someone and it just doesn't work out, or it's so clear that you and your partner are moving in different directions or envision the future in different directions. It's knowing that this ending, as saddening as it can be, it truly is a new beginning in disguise. And it's going to be important to trust that. This can also show up in friendships as well. You know, seventh house is 1-to-1, which typically shows up around business partners, committed partnerships. But I do want to highlight, you know, especially for Aquarius, you're the sign of friendship. And for a lot of us, the major heartaches and heartbreaks and betrayals within our life as Aquarius placements is not always romantic partnerships, it's friendships. And so there also could be something like that where someone's true colors are revealed, a business partner, someone that you really trusted, and you have to believe that this person being yanked out of your reality is setting you up for space to open up and the right people to come into your world who genuinely have your best interests at heart. And I do mean like yanked out of your life, because eclipses are kind of like that, in that the most sudden random things will occur to get what is not meant for you out of your life. It's like a cosmic vacuum cleaner. It really just takes away what's no longer meant for us, or where something is outdated, or where we've learned the lessons, or something like this. And I don't mean to put any fear out there. If you are in an amazing partnership, an amazing relationship, this could just indicate letting go of a cycle of pride that the two of you have been in, feeling like it's more important to be right rather than be happy, or letting go of idolizing the other person's visions and needs and like starting to choose yourself as well. So if you've been like staying at home with the kids, or you've been prioritizing spending time with your partner's in-laws and not yours, like there could be an energy this year with all of this like choose yourself energy where you start to advocate for yourself in ways that you may have not before. And it could be like releasing a cycle there, releasing a cycle of toxicity, or just releasing a pattern around identifying yourself with your relationships. You know, some of you could be releasing codependent tendencies, seeing yourself through the context of your partner, glorifying your partner, putting them on pedestals. Even if you're not currently in a relationship, that could be something you are shedding and getting out of your system in order to enter into a relationship that is really heart-centered and beautiful and really respects you and the person that you are and makes you feel like more of yourself rather than less of yourself. Some of you may have had some sort of interaction with someone who sought to control you, you know, especially with Pluto in your sign, wanted you to show up in a particular way, or could have just siphoned so much of your life force that you don't even recognize yourself any longer. And I see this could be a year around really releasing not just the relationship, but the debris it left and the way of viewing yourself that it left. This also can be a part of your year. As I mentioned, Uranus does leave your modality. And I emphasize your modality because when we have outer planets in our modality, it indicates that it will make a harsh aspect to any of our placements. You're finishing out this journey in April, but we have a couple more degrees for Uranus to cover. And so I do want to let you know that if you have Aquarius placements from 27 to 29 degrees Uranus, you will have a Uranus square this year, which also can be a plot twist, something that comes out of left field. There could be something sudden that comes up around your living situation, your home environment, that again, maybe sets you up to live in the most ideal place possible. And so Aquarius, like I said at the very beginning, the plot twist for you is that yes, things may change and shift, but the plot twist is that it's truly all working out, that it is launching you forward. You could have felt like the changes that you've been wrestling with in the past couple of years have made it challenging to progress, and you are progressing forward. That's the plot twist, that yes, there might be shifts and shakeups, but there's also momentum that feels like it's alive in your movie and alive in your astrology. Okay, Aquarius, like I said, having North Node in your sign makes it more about you. So let's get into you. Who are you this year? How are you evolving this year? This is the Character Development Act, which is when we dial into your ruling planets. I am a traditional astrologer, so I typically put more emphasis on the traditional rulerships, in which case your ruler is Saturn. So let's start there, and then I'll touch on your modern ruler, Uranus. So your ruling planet, Saturn, begins the year in Pisces. This has also been the case since 2023. And a lot of you who have had to work through this muscle of trust. I genuinely feel that some of you could be going through some sort of like spiritual awakening, or you could have been leveraging more spiritual tools, especially with the planet that your ruling planet aligns with this year, Neptune. We'll get into that in a moment. But even just tuning to the energy, the frequency of Pisces, there could have been a lot that's been showing up around having to work the muscle of trusting the bigger picture of it, even through the chaos and the crises from Pluto and Uranus, Saturn and Pisces, trusting it is all working out for me. And this makes me so happy for you, because looking at the astrology in the later portion of the year, let the astrology cook, okay? I see a lot of the good things happening later on in the year. I think you're going to see a lot of proof of what it is that you've been like working the muscle around. It's all going to work out for the best. It's all going to make sense one day. It's all going to align for me. And the universe is going to be like, yeah, it is. And that's hard to believe when you have gone through consistent trials and tribulations, as many of you have. And with Saturn and Pisces, there could have been certain spiritual tools that you reached for in order to make sense You also could have had to really work the muscle of boundaries, having your compassion have limits. Some of you may have had to really work on your vices. I do see that some of you could have had some mental health disturbances, some emotional disturbances, some crash outs potentially. Sometimes Uranus in the fourth house, it could just make our emotional state a little bit more up and down. And Pluto in the first house can make us more obsessive about things. And especially with your ruling planet aligning with Neptune after it finishes its time in Pisces, I would definitely be mindful of escapism, like seeking to numb or flatline yourself because it feels too much to handle. Again, this is not medical advice, nothing like this, but just being conscious if you feel like vices have really taken hold or there's emotional work that you can feel that needs to be done, but you'd rather just like drink it away or something like this. Saturn and Pisces can also make us really have to work the muscle of showing up for our reality rather than checking out. Additionally, this has been transiting your second house. So a lot of you could have had some financial hurdles and struggles. Maybe having to move suddenly took a lot of money out of you. Maybe you became a homeowner and you're like, dear God, I didn't know everything costs this much, or you had to relocate and it's more expensive there. There just could have been certain financial hardships. And if that's not the case, it just could have been an energy around now that my visions are bigger, my dreams are bigger, I'm having to work harder, I'm having to think long-term around my finances. Maybe I'm taking care of a family now. So I'm having to really be shrewd and strategic around my finances. The good news is, Aquarius, is that story is coming to a close. So if you have been feeling like it's been so hard to get ahead, it's like as soon as I start earning more, then now this comes up, something like this. Saturn leaving the second house should alleviate that, especially if you've been thinking critically, striving to set yourself up for the future, striving to keep your priorities in check. I mean, some of you just could have felt like you were fighting for survival, but nonetheless, with Saturn leaving that territory, there should be an energy where you feel like you're able to move forward, or that the changes that are thrust your way, maybe they don't take as much of a financial hit as they have in past years, something like this. Outside of finances, with Saturn in the second house, you could have gotten rid of a lot of stuff. You could have sold a lot of possessions. You could have been really doing the work around your self-worth. I do see a story in the beginning part of the year around believing in your gifts and believing in the value of your gifts. I see that showing up here. On February 13th, Saturn will shift into Aries. And this will give a new tone to you as the character. Where before, with the energy of Pisces, it could have been around trusting in the universe and trusting that things will make sense in time and having to work the muscle of compassion, but not being compassionate to the point of your own demise or self-sacrifice. When it enters Aries, there's a little bit more of like a F it mentality energy where you could feel like you are more proactive around what you desire, where before there could have felt like hurdles and hardships and challenges. You could find this year you're more apt to go out and get what it is that you desire, get what it is that you want. The caveat is this is a transit that requires you to be very fiercely accountable. This sort of astrology this year, it's challenging to a collective level, absolutely, but it's going to require each and every person to be very personally accountable and responsible around if I don't like something in my life, I've got to change it. I need to take responsibility of me. Something like that could be a focus here, especially as it relates to like your mind. This is in the third house, or learning certain things that set you up for the future. With Saturn in Pisces, Saturn aligning with Neptune in February as well, there could have been an energy around making excuses or building up this whole narrative within around like, it's okay that I'm not doing the thing, learning the thing. Saturn in Aries is around, facts are facts. It's time for me to do the thing, go after what it is that I desire. I can seek to numb it away or put myself as a victim within the whole story. But the energy of Saturn in Aries is around, okay, no one's coming to save me. I got to go after what it is that I want. And with the energy of third house, it's particularly spotlighting communication, being very honest, being very clear. Maybe there's been an energy of avoidance. You're not wanting to say the thing or talk about the thing, pretending like if you don't talk about it, then it's not real. And then Saturn in Aries is like, F it, I got to say the thing. I got to advocate for myself here. Third house is also social media, communication. That can also be an emphasis for some. It's also the mind and like the mental stories that you have. I do want to let you know we got like a taste of this energy in 2025, like think summer. It was like end of May to beginning of September, Saturn was in Aries. So contemplating what came up at that time may signal some of the themes that Saturn Aries may have in store for you, but it's going to require you to be very intentional around the sort of thoughts that you think, the way that you frame it. Frame it like a winner, frame every challenge as simply an obstacle for you to persevere over. See every roadblocker as simply an opportunity to learn. Third house is a lot about learning, and be patient with this arena. If you are seeking to grow an audience online or start a podcast or communicate something, Saturn energy is not always results overnight energy. In fact, it's rarely that. And Aries energy tends to be a little impatient, so it may require you to take the spark of inspiration and be very intentional about it. Around, it's great to post whenever you're inspired, but there is like a certain momentum that you have to have, and keeping that flame burning. There also can be challenges around neighbors, siblings, extended family is also third house energy, and I want to emphasize that. When this transit begins, it meets up with Neptune, who also shifts into Aries this year at the end of January and moves into your third house. With Neptune moving out of your second house into your third house, there should be a lot more clarity that you have around your finances. If you've been lending money to people, like letting the goodness of your heart be taken advantage of, there should be an energy from this conjunction onward where you're able to be a little bit more firm around your boundaries and maybe say the thing. Like I said, third house has a lot to do with saying the thing around, no, bro, I won't bail you out of this, or no, I can't help you with this. Like there might be something like that that shows up. And again, the spirit of Aries is around being very personally accountable, where yes, you're an Aquarius, you're here to save the world. You're here to help the humans. That's a beautiful part of your journey. But the energy of Aries is a reminder to the collective that the emphasis of the strength that we build getting out of sticky situations, where oftentimes if we keep enabling people or bailing them out of situations, we are denying them opportunity to learn that lesson themselves. So it can feel harsh or cruel if you finally lay down the law as it relates to a cousin or someone else within your world, but it's knowing to a big picture you could be really helping them and building the strength necessary to navigate through this daily life. Or just with the energy around, I've got to save me, or I got to prioritize me, I got to do what's best for me. Something like that could also show up here. And with Saturn and Neptune aligning in the third house has to do with the mind. And with Saturn in third, you may feel like you're in a little bit more of a negative mental space. That's where it's important to really build the muscle of seeing yourself as a strong, competent individual with this energy of Aries, seeing doors closed and just looking for a window. Like that's Aries energy. It's the first sign of the zodiac, which is why it's so closely associated with inventors and people who initiate and do things because they don't take no for an answer. And I don't mean that in terms of consent. No is always a full answer in terms of anyone giving consent, of course. But I mean in terms of trying to invent the thing or solve the problem. It's like, this didn't work, let's try this. And it might be important for you to really frame your life that way. A helpful affirmation for you can be this year, like everything is figure outable. And it's important to maintain mental mastery. I saw a TikTok from a podcast that I follow called Good Noticings. And one of the hosts was saying, you cannot ruin your life over the thing that's ruining your life. And what she meant by that is that we are going to have issues and problems. We can ruin our own life with panic and stress. And this is not me saying that our minds are like a light switch. We can just turn off stress and anxiety. But oftentimes we'll ruin our life over this issue of what feels like it's ruining our life. And with the energy of Saturn in third house, there may be an energy where some of the issues or problems may not be something that are immediately remedied. Maybe you worry a lot around your children and it's like, they're still little. They have a lot of time to go through, and that's probably going to be a lot of worry. Or maybe you're in the midst of some sort of court case, legal battle. I'm not necessarily seeing that within astrology, but it's just basically think of like a stressor where it's like, it's going to take time to fully resolve this. And in the interim, I need to do things that will help my mind. Like help me not ruin my life over the thing that feels like it's ruining my life, around allowing this stress and panic to make me crash out. Like it's going to be important this year to really lean on healthy ways of managing your stress, healthy ways of managing your anxiety, and definitely being mindful of anything that could tempt you to want to make your brain shut off. Listen, I know I'm talking to Aquarians. You guys got a lot of thoughts in that brain, okay? I have Mercury and Mars in Aquarius. I get you. But Saturn and Neptune can be treacherous in that Neptune can govern substances. So this can indicate leaning more so on sleeping pills in order to sleep at night, or leaning on other things in order to take the thoughts away, so to speak. And with Saturn in the third house, it just might be a reminder around, the thoughts are here to stay, the worries are here to stay, the stressors are here to stay. And I don't mean that in a depressing way. It's like there's 20 things that we could be worrying about at any point in time. And some of the things, it's like it takes time for it to be like resolved. So how is it that we find some sort of peace and serenity in the interim? How is it that we work the muscle of really getting our mind into a better state? Can be significant here. Saturn in third house, as I highlighted, can indicate slowly and surely building some sort of social media, blog, podcast of some sort. You could be learning a skill, and that may take time. Allow it to take time. Good things do not happen overnight. Saturn is teaching us all patience all of the time. If you are going into sales or marketing, there can be some sort of limitations there, or a need to be very assertive in those arenas and having to learn certain strategies that support you in being assertive and being proactive. Again, the energy of Aries really asks you to be the main character of your year. Like, you're always the main character of your movies, but especially this year, it's like Saturn and Aries. Who is going to do this for me if not me? Who's going to learn this for me if not me? And if there's a certain issue or problem that comes your way, like, know that you can figure it out. You can solve it. You can research. You can learn the things. Like, you can navigate through this. I want to highlight that your traditional ruling planet will be direct in the first part of the year, and then it stations retrograde from July 26th until December 10th. And the difference with that is that when our ruler is direct, it could feel like we're covering new ground. We're moving into new arenas of our life. It's not that all comes to a pause later on in the year. I do see other influences where it's actually like a growth, a speeding up energy. I just think with the energy of Saturn retrograde, it's refining, it's streamlining. The other ruler for us to illuminate is Uranus. So within modern astrology, Uranus is your ruling planet. After Uranus departs Taurus, it moves into Gemini. And this is what I was talking about when I was saying it could have felt like the winds of change were against you and now they're for you, because Gemini is a fellow air sign. And so this indicates a harmonious flow of energy, especially if you have Aquarius placements between 0 to 5 degrees Aquarius. This means Uranus and Gemini will give you a soft flow of energy, which is like the sort of changes we like. Having Uranus square our placements is sometimes like sudden disruptions around, okay, universe, I'm so glad you got me into this dream house, this dream relationship, but really, did you have to do it like this? Uranus squares can take us by surprise. And Uranus trines are like, here's the invitation to our dream new apartment, or here's meeting this person who's not our typical type, but really exciting, and we love to talk with them. That's the sort of energy. And your modern ruler Uranus will enter Gemini, which is a very curious influence. Again, with this and Saturn entering your third, I do feel like some of you are learning something new. You're getting into a new hobby this year. You're going to get obsessed with something that you're wanting to learn a lot about. And with Uranus in the fifth house of fun, you're having fun with learning this thing, having this hobby. You could be joining some sort of sports league this year. You could be joining some sort of book club this year. You could get into some new hobbies, and particularly like a hobby that allows you to socialize with the energy of Gemini, or allows you to learn. Some of you could join a writing group. If you're a writer, this is definitely a great year for writing. And with Uranus in the fifth house, you're wanting to create in different ways. You're wanting to express yourself in different ways. You're wanting to experiment with different sides of yourself. You're wanting to date around. If you are single, Uranus in your fifth house, Jupiter in your seventh house, be open to some unusual ways to meet people. Uranus can be around, technology, but also like niche interests, run clubs, sports clubs, books clubs. Like I said, this is a time to go to some weird social gatherings this year. And some of you could even be questioning who it is that you typically date and being open to different people altogether. Or if you are in a serious relationship, like even open to different arrangements, whatever that may look. Again, it's going to look different person to person, but with Uranus in fifth house, there may be a desire where you're wanting to flirt and socialize, as well as create. This is really creative energy, like get weird with it. I'm telling you, with Uranus in the 5th house, get weird with it. And it may be a little uncomfortable to promote or market like your creative expression this year, just with Saturn 3rd house, but it's asking like work the muscle around being courageous, around talking about yourself and advertising you and your weird art, whatever it is that you're doing this year. You could get into some random hobbies, interests, as I said. Some of you could have some ups and downs as it relates to your children or some random occurrences around pregnancy, fertility, something like that. I say random just because Uranus is sudden energy. So something else that may be reflected within your year. So all in all, Aquarius, with your traditional ruling planet Saturn moving out of Pisces, aligned with Neptune at the beginning of the year, now getting further and further from Neptune, there is an energy where you are wanting to live in real life. If you felt like you were living in a daydream or just seeking to handle what was happening, that you didn't have the space to get out there, to socialize, to create, to experiment, you're wanting to interact with the world in a very real way. You're wanting to connect with new people. If anything, to like remind yourself of your own humanity. You're wanting to try new things, to remind yourself that you are alive. You're wanting to learn new things, to remind yourself just how malleable the mind is. There's an energy coming over you this year where you could feel more energized, more activated, more inspired to learn the things, do the things, meet the people. Act 4, supporting characters. Let's dive into the other outer planets that we have not discussed or have not discussed in length. Starting with Chiron. So Chiron will be in Aries for most of the year. However, between June and September, it does ingress into Taurus. So it does give a little bit of foreshadows there. So the journey that you've been on with Chiron, you could have dealt with certain mental stories, painful loops around your mind, which again, Saturn entering your 3rd house is asking you to be very accountable in dialing into whatever Chiron has brought to the surface. You could be dealing with painful situations around siblings, around extended family members, around social media altogether. Chiron energy, it cuts deeply, not just because of what it is. Like it might be like, come on, it's just that your friend didn't like your Instagram post, but it cuts deeper because it's like, yeah, but it reminds me that I feel outcasted within this group that I'm in. And yeah, but it hurts. It reminds me of being hurt when I was 7 years old and nobody wanted to eat lunch with me. Like Chiron energy goes deep. Or seeing your sibling going through something and it like cuts so deep because you're like, I'm their older sibling. Like I should be able to help them more so through this. It could just bring about like, winces, as well as to your own mind as well. When Chiron enters Taurus on June 19th, it enters your 4th house of home, of family, again, where Uranus had been moving through. And so there can be certain pain points around home, around familial programming, generational programming, around why can't they see me as I am? Why can't they love me as I am? Or why was I taught to believe this or see the world or prioritize this? Or what will it take for them to finally value me? Like there can be some sort of sore spot showing up there, as well as something around a home, like even having to sell a home that has sentimental value and like feeling another wave of grief or sadness because you contemplate the memories that you had in that house with people who are no longer here. I don't say this in a scary way. Typically what I see with Chiron transits, rather than something new painful happening, it's events that bring about pain points that are beneath the surface, like always there, and Chiron transits tend to ping at it. So there could be certain things that come up midway through the year, June to September, that ping at themes around your familial programming, your generational programming, around your family, around your ancestry, even around your emotions. If you feel like, why am I like this? Why do I feel like this? Something like this. Chiron energy can just make us feel very inadequate. It can make us feel like it's impossible to fully be healed, because a core part of Chiron is that even with the gifts that the wound gives, the wound is always there. And I don't say that in a discouraging way around what's the point of healing if there's still going to be tender spots. Like definitely prioritize healing, stress management like we talked about, maybe even like therapy with Pluto in your sign, or other tools in order to regulate and manage your emotions. We do heal. We do get better. Like believe in that. But with Chiron energy, please know that the healing journey is not linear. Like you can do so much work around something and still have a bad day that just pings at not just the incident, but also how little you also felt that same shame or guilt. It tends to go so much deeper than what we see. And that's going to be the most dramatic if you have Aquarius placements at 0 degrees. Chiron just gets to 0 degrees Taurus. So if you have Aquarius placements 0 degrees Aquarius, Chiron will square your Aquarius placements. Now, on a brighter note, let's talk about Jupiter. So Jupiter starts the year in Cancer, which could have been a story around expanding your day-to-day routine, expanding your connection to a small animal. You could have gotten a pet that you're very bonded to. There could have been energy around really taking care of yourself through nourishing your fitness and routines. Like that can be something that's really regulating you and balancing you and pouring into you. You could have really been doing the work around educational opportunities that are helping you expand within work or taking on more responsibility at work. You could have gotten another job. You could have been busier as of late. You could have more responsibilities, more errands, more things going on. I have to get real. 6th house isn't the most exciting house always, but 6th house is our life. Like altogether, we can think about the holidays and the vacations and the celebrations, but so much of life is getting up in the morning and whether or not we choose to walk our dog and brush our teeth and floss, and all of these micro decisions lead to big picture themes within our world. With Jupiter in 6th house, you could have really gotten a kick last year around wanting to take really good care of yourself, care of your animals, care of your responsibilities. This year, Jupiter will enter your 7th house. So from June 29th onward, Jupiter will be expanding the territory that has to deal with one-to-one connections and relationships, which can absolutely bring new people into your life. But South Node's also there, as we talked about, which is around release. Jupiter is a territory of the chart where we tend to be more optimistic. And so with Jupiter in 7th house, you could feel more optimistic around your dating potentials or your ability to attract a partner. So it can be a breakup transit. We don't talk about it enough, but Jupiter in the 7th house can absolutely be an energy where you want to feel free. You want to put yourself out there. And if you feel like this person is being controlling or siphoning your joy, making you feel like less of yourself, this absolutely could be a transit in which you gain the strength and feel optimistic enough around the dating market or what have you that you choose to fly the coop from this relationship. That will not be the story for everyone. But if you're in a relationship and you feel less of yourself around that person, if you feel like you have to excessively tend to that person's ego and fluff up that person's identity, and you feel like not a priority within this person's life, there may be events that come up at the latter portion of the year that signify to you that you would grow more outside of the relationship. Jupiter in the 7th house is either an energy around we're growing in the relationship, we're traveling, we're going to therapy, we are prioritizing the connection, we're creating together, like we are seeking to grow together, or I'm going to grow alone. It tends to kind of bring that crossroad energy where we want to experience, we want to evolve, we want to say yes. And if we feel like the person that we are with is holding us back from that, this could be this transit of spreading your wings. And if you are single and ready to mingle, Jupiter energy can be supportive of this. Same goes with Uranus in the 5th house. My encouragement would be say yes to people that you typically would not. Be open to random ways of meeting people. Get out of your comfort zone. Some of you could even be traveling with a partner or to a partner, something like this. I would also say some of you are going to have people coming into your life who are from past lives. Jupiter and South Node in the 7th house. This can definitely be karmic individuals coming into your world. I'm not putting that out there for everybody, but you may connect with people who feel very familiar. And sometimes this could be a very positive thing and a very supportive thing, and sometimes it could be a more negative thing. And so I would just encourage you to be on guard for people who are very excessive right away, who like love bomb you or try to take things really fast or something like this. You know, with Uranus in the 5th house, you could be wanting to date and get out there and figure out what you like. So definitely being conscious if someone is trying to consume you or possess you right away, because it's easy for people to show you a version that they don't have the ability to maintain. And I don't say that in a scary way. It's just that sometimes people will be able to give you a good experience and the mask falls. And so just being conscious of that. I definitely think it's supportive to put yourself out there, but be mindful of people who are very egotistical, narcissistic, or people who drain your energy. Definitely something to be on guard of with Pluto in your first house, and ask, does this person add to my vitality, add to my joy, or do they deplete it? And only connect with people who make you more of yourself. This year's astrology demands that is the case. And I do want to highlight, Aquarius, the Mercury retrogrades land in water signs, which for you correspond to your work houses. So those Mercury retrogrades could have a lot to do with finishing out projects in the past, rethinking career, how you make money, how you navigate your day-to-day, how you are seen by the world at large. Venus retrograde that we'll experience in fall also will be in a water sign, thus a worky house, leading to review. It then dips into Libra, your 9th house. If you're looking for a detailed look at those Mercury retrogrades, what dates they are, what exact themes are coming to the surface, I do recommend checking out my Magic 2026 guide. We talk about each of those retrogrades for your chart. We go deep into it, but I just want to let you know here that they may bring up a lot of themes around how you make money, how you make a living, how it is that you show up at work, so on and so forth. Act 5, the final scene. I want to take you to the end of the year. I want you to think of being in December 2026 and being so proud of yourself that you chose yourself. Even in sticky situations, even with people who are telling you everything that you wanted to hear, people trying to guilt you or shame you for wanting what you want, going after what you want. Imagine that energy of pride around, I'm so proud of myself that I bet on myself. I'm so proud of myself that I love myself enough to prioritize what I really want out of life. I'm so proud of myself that I chose to get support as it relates to my mental health. I'm so proud of myself that I said yes to that roller skate club. I'm so proud of myself that I put myself out there for this date and found the love of my life. I'm so glad that I let go of the relationship that was not meant for me in order to get into the relationship that was meant for me. Imagine being at the end result and feeling that energy of pride. Because there's a lot this year that could be shaken up. And again, genuinely, if it's not December 2026, there will be a day around every setback was my setup. Everything that was taken simply created space for something so much better to come in. That day will come. But I want you to visualize that version of yourself and know that that person exists, who's on the other side of any sort of hurdle, any sort of challenge, any sort of uncertainty, and know that you will persist. You will get to the other side of this, and you will arise to the call of this astrology and soar. Ask for courage. Your traditional ruler is entering Aries. And so I do feel that there's favorable change coming in, but I do feel like part of it is around you being assertive, you deciding, I'm taking the reins of my life. I'm learning this thing. I'm choosing myself. I'm standing up for myself. This is my life. I do not want to be a bystander. I do not want to be a passenger. And that can be scary, to take radical accountability of our life and to do the things that scare us. But the version of you who's on the other side of that and is so proud that you took the risk that you did the work that you did, that you put yourself out there in the way that you did, whether that's romantically, professionally, so on and so forth, is so proud of you and so glad that you did. And I'm so proud of you as well. It seems fitting to close out this video with a future version of you, being that you are the sign of the future. And I love that. So my loves, thank you so much for getting dialed into the year ahead astrology with me. Reminder, I have 2 offerings to support you further. The first is the Magic 2026 month by month guide. I take you through all of the major astrology month to month, and that's there to support you as you navigate through the year. It's there to support you around month by month, what arenas of your life are the most supportive, where the astrology is signaling you to grow, go, and glow, the challenges that may come up, the affirmations that may support you. We're also having group live classes in January around the Capricorn new moon, where we look at your chart and your transits in order to set intentions and call in your most magic 2026. And if you are new to my cosmic corner of the internet, hello, welcome on in. I am here every week. I have a weekly horoscope podcast called Magic Monday, where I take you through what is showing up astrologically and how it is that you can co-create with it, how it is that you can use astrology in order to experience more alignment and flow within your world. Because that is genuinely what I believe, that when we understand these cycles and patterns and flow with them rather than force against them, we experience more synchronicity, more bliss, more alignment, more life out of this experience. And that's what I seek to give every single week. So subscribe if that feels up your alley. Like, share, send to another Aquarius friend. I just so appreciate you spending some time with me. But until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay magical.